Hey Reddit, I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My wife, let's call her Kara, 32F, and I, 34M, have been together for almost 9 years, married for 6. We've had what I thought was a decent marriage. We had the usual arguments about money, house chores, her mother sticking her nose in everything, but nothing I ever thought was fatal, at least not until the past year. Around 10 months ago, I started noticing things that didn't add up. She suddenly became very protective of her phone, putting it face down on the table or taking it with her even when she went to the bathroom. She used to be the kind of person who would leave it lying around for hours. At first, I brushed it off. Everyone deserves their privacy, right? But then there were other changes. As she started staying late at work, even though I know her office doesn't exactly run on overtime. Her tone with me became sharper, like everything I said annoyed her. I couldn't even ask her how her day was without her sighing and rolling her eyes. She got really into girls' nights all of a sudden, even though she never really liked going out before. When I'd bring up any of these changes, she'd act like I was being paranoid. God, you're so controlling, she'd snap. Or, why don't you trust me? You're imagining things. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality, like maybe I was imagining things. But my gut kept screaming at me that something was wrong. And oh boy, I wish I'd been wrong. So here's how it all came crashing down. About 3 months ago, Kara left her laptop open on the kitchen counter while she went to shower. Normally, I never go through her stuff. I always believed in trust. But something about the way she snapped at me earlier that day, "Why don't you get a hobby instead of breathing down my neck?" stuck in my head. Her screen was open on her Facebook Messenger, and I swear to God, my heart just pulled me over to look. And there it was, a chat with some guy saved as Liam Work. At first, it looked innocent, but then I scrolled just a little. I didn't even have to go far. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait until we do it again. Wish I could wake up next to you instead of him." That hit me like a truck. I kept reading, my hands shaking so bad I could barely scroll. There were photos, not nudes, but pictures of them together at restaurants, selfies in a car, inside jokes I didn't understand. Stuff couples share. Stuff we used to share. And the lies. She had told me she was at yoga class the night she was sending him. "That thing you did with my hair, OMG, you're evil." I felt like I was standing outside my own life, looking at it from a distance. My stomach dropped, my head went light, and I think I even laughed a little because it felt so surreal. This was the kind of story you read online, not something that happens in your marriage. When she came out of the shower, towel on her head, humming like nothing had happened, I just stared at her. I knew right then my world had shifted forever, and there was no going back. I didn't plan it. I thought maybe I'd wait, gather evidence, figure out my words. But the second she walked in and asked if I could run to the store because she forgot almond milk, I just snapped. I said, "Who's Liam?" The look on her face was priceless. She froze mid-step, towel slipping off her shoulder. For a split second, she looked like a deer in headlights, then immediately switched to angry. "Why are you snooping through my stuff? Do you have any idea how toxic that is?" I told her I saw the messages. I repeated the line about "last night was amazing." She tried to play dumb at first. "You misunderstood. It's just a joke. We're friends." But I kept pressing, and she got bitchier with every sentence. "You're imagining things again, like you always do. If you weren't so boring, maybe I wouldn't need friends. Do you know how embarrassing it is to be married to someone so insecure?" I asked her point blank if she was sleeping with him. That's when she rolled her eyes, crossed her arms, and said, "Fine. Yes. Happy now." Felt like someone had sucker punched me in the gut. I literally couldn't breathe. She said it like it was nothing. No tears, no guilt, just this cold, dismissive tone like she was admitting to buying the wrong brand of cereal. When I asked her why, she shrugged and said, "Because he makes me feel alive. You don't. All you do is work, come home, and sit around. Liam actually makes me laugh." That cut deeper than the admission itself. And then, get this, she had the audacity to say, "But I don't want to break up. We have a good thing here." I just need more excitement sometimes. You'll never understand. I remember standing there, fists clenched, every nerve in my body screaming to either run or explode. But I just stood still, staring at the stranger who somehow had the same face as my wife. I don't think I've ever felt so many things at once. Anger, sadness, humiliation, disbelief. It was like my chest was full of broken glass and every breath cut deeper. That night after the confrontation, I couldn't even look at her. She went to bed like nothing had happened, scrolling on her phone, turning her back to me, while I sat in the living room staring at the dark. I felt like I was going insane. The worst part? My brain kept replaying everything. Every late night she came home smelling of perfume. Every time she laughed at her phone and told me it was just a meme from Sarah. Every time she brushed me off when I tried to kiss her. It all connected now, and it was like the foundation of my life had been swapped out with sand. I wanted to scream. I wanted to smash her phone. I wanted to drive to this Liam guy's place and drag him out by his collar. But I didn't. I just sat there, paralyzed. The humiliation was brutal. I kept thinking, she chose him over me. She compared us. And I lost. That was the knife twisting in my gut. Not just the betrayal, but knowing she looked me in the eye while she was sneaking off to him. And the lies. God, the lies. She told me she was working late while they were probably out eating sushi. She told me she was at yoga while he was running his fingers through her hair. She looked me in the eyes every single day and lied through her teeth. At one point around 3 a.m., I actually broke down crying. Full on, ugly crying, clutching a pillow on the couch like some lost kid. I kept asking myself, how did I miss this? How could I be such an idiot? That was the first night I realized nothing would ever be the same again. The morning after was brutal. I barely slept, and when I finally dragged myself to the kitchen, she was there making coffee like it was any other day. She didn't even acknowledge what happened the night before. No apology, no attempt to talk. Nothing. Just, we're out of creamer? Can you grab some later? That was the moment I realized she didn't think this was a crisis. She genuinely thought we'd just keep going, that I'd swallow this like bad medicine and move on. But inside me, two voices started fighting. One was saying, leave. She's shown you who she is. Don't waste another second. The other whispered, you've been together almost a decade. Marriage vows mean fighting for it. What if this is just a phase? What if you regret walking away? I spent the entire day going back and forth. Part of me was scared. Scared of divorce, of being alone, of admitting my marriage was over. The other part was boiling with anger, demanding I take my dignity back. At one point, I even Googled, can a marriage survive infidelity? Like some desperate idiot looking for hope. Half the article said yes, half said no, and none of them gave me what I really needed, certainty. Then, around noon, she texted me while I was at work. Guess what she said? Hey, don't be dramatic about last night. I told you it didn't mean anything. I love you. Stop overreacting. That one message almost made my decision for me. The way she dismissed my pain like I was a child throwing a tantrum. It lit something in me. I wasn't ready to walk out yet. Not because I wanted her, but because I wanted her lies to end on my terms. I wanted to see just how deep this betrayal went before I chose my next move. A week after that first confrontation, I thought maybe things would cool down. Spoiler, they didn't. Kara kept acting like nothing happened. She'd still go out on her girls' nights. Still guard her phone like it was the nuclear codes. Still snap at me if I even hinted at the subject. I was walking around my own house like a ghost, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then one night I got it. She said she was meeting the girls again. I didn't believe her for a second. So, against every instinct, I followed her. Yeah, I know. I felt like some private eye from a bad movie, sitting in my car down the street. She drove across town and pulled into a hotel parking lot. My stomach dropped. I sat there in the dark, headlights off, watching as she got out of the car. And then, like clockwork, Liam walked up to her. They hugged, kissed, walked inside holding hands like some lovey-dovey couple. I swear, I almost threw up in the car. The reality of it, Seeing it with my own eyes was 10 times worse than reading messages. This wasn't just texting or needing excitement. She was building a whole second life with this guy. I didn't confront them right then. Part of me wanted to storm into that hotel lobby and blow it all up, but something in me held back. Maybe pride, maybe fear of losing control. Instead, I just drove home, shaking so hard I could barely keep my hands on the wheel. When she came home hours later, smelling like cheap perfume and excuses, she had the audacity to say, "Ugh, you wouldn't believe how drunk Sarah got tonight. I had to babysit her." That was it. The blatant lie to my face, right after I'd watched her with him. That was the breaking point. The last shred of trust one had evaporated right there in my living room. I couldn't take it anymore. That night, I sat her down in the living room, and for the first time, I didn't hold back. I laid it all out, the messages I saw, the photos, the hotel, everything. I didn't scream, at least not at first. I just told her exactly what I knew. Her reaction, pure, unfiltered Kara. First, denial. "You're imagining things. That guy is just a friend." Then, frustration. "Why are you acting like this is a big deal? You're so dramatic. Seriously." Then, the classic blame shift. "If you were more interesting, maybe I wouldn't need anyone else. You've become so boring, so predictable. Honestly, you're lucky I even stay here sometimes." I sat there, mouth open, because this was the same woman who claimed she loved me. The same woman who took vows, looking me dead in the eye while throwing everything back on me. I lost it then. My voice shook as I yelled, "Do you even hear yourself? You're cheating on me. With him. And you're sitting there blaming me?" And she laughed. A sharp, bitter laugh. "Well, it's not like I planned to tell you this. Okay? Don't act like you're some saint. You've been distant for months, Mr. Perfect Husband. I'm alive. I make choices. You need to deal with it." Felt like a punch to my chest. I wanted to hit something, the wall, the floor, maybe even her. But instead I just sat there, feeling like I was collapsing from the inside out. That night, I realized one thing for certain. She was never going to feel guilty, never going to apologize, and probably never going to love me the way I thought she did. The next few days were hell. Absolute hell. I didn't know how to function. I went to work, but I kept replaying her words, her laughter. The way she looked at me like I was some inconvenience in her life. I oscillated between rage and crushing sadness. Some mornings I woke up with a knot in my chest so tight I could barely breathe. Some nights I stayed awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything we'd built together, now feeling meaningless. I stopped eating properly. I'd grab a sandwich, sit in the car, and stare blankly at the dashboard, feeling like a stranger to myself. Friends called, asking why I hadn't responded, and I just mumbled excuses. How do you explain this to someone without sounding insane? My wife is living a double life. She laughed at me while cheating on me. Every little thing set me off. I'd see her laughing at her phone, and my blood would boil. I'd hear a song we used to love, and I'd burst into tears. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to shake her until she admitted she cared at all. The worst was the betrayal's intimacy. She wasn't just lying. She was sharing parts of herself, the parts one thought were only for me, with him. And the fact that she could do it so casually, so openly, while still expecting me to get over it, that stung more than anything. I realized then that anger and sadness weren't enough. This was deeper. A profound, gnawing sense of loss. The person I thought I knew wasn't there anymore. And that hole? It was mine to sit in alone until I figured out what to do next. After a few days of emotional chaos, I realized I couldn't just rely on memory and gut feelings anymore. I needed proof. Not for revenge, not for blackmail. I needed clarity, something solid so I could finally make a decision without doubting myself. So I started paying attention. I checked her phone when it was unlocked. Not snooping in a paranoid way, just confirming what I already suspected. I went through our shared calendar and noticed patterns. Girls' nights, yoga sessions, late work events that never added up. I even checked her email. Ugh, I feel guilty even admitting this. And found hotel bookings, dinner reservations, messages from Liam that she had deleted from Messenger. Piece by piece, Everything fit together like a sick puzzle. Every excuse, every late night, every petty argument she used to dismiss me now made sense. She hadn't changed overnight. She'd been slowly building this secret life while telling me I was imagining things. And the reality check hit me hard. She wasn't going to confess or stop on her own. She wasn't going to apologize sincerely or even feel remorse that mattered. She was living in her own version of the world where I was inconvenient, boring, and replaceable. I sat in our living room one night, staring at our wedding photo, and for the first time I fully accepted the truth. This woman I loved, trusted, and built a life with had chosen someone else. Emotionally, physically, everything. The illusion was gone. It hurt like hell, but there was a strange relief in finally knowing the full picture. No more guessing, no more maybe it's nothing. Now I could start thinking about my next move. A few nights later, I decided I couldn't hold it in anymore. I needed her to face her own mess. I sat her down again, this time with every piece of evidence laid out on the table. Texts, photos, hotel bookings, even screenshots of her lies about where she'd been. I don't think I've ever been so calm yet so furious in my life. I said, Kara, I know everything. Every lie, every night you spent with him, every excuse you gave me. Do you have any explanation that doesn't make you sound like a total monster? She rolled her eyes like I was a child whining about a scraped knee. Then she did that thing she always does, the fake victim act. You're insane. You're stalking me now? This is crazy behavior. I can't believe you went through my stuff. How could you betray my trust like that? You're overreacting. I love you. He's just fun. That's all. I stared at her, my heart breaking in real time. Fun? That's your excuse? Fun? I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just said, no, Kara. This isn't fun. This is betrayal. And you can spin it however you want, but the truth is that you chose him. And until you can admit that, there's nothing left for us here. She got defensive, bitchy, sharp as a knife. I don't need to explain myself to you. I'm allowed to be happy. You're so controlling. Stop acting like I'm evil. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just cheating. She was incapable of seeing how wrong she was. She could twist anything to make herself the victim. Every apology, every excuse she'd ever given, lies, manipulation, gaslighting on a pro level. And suddenly, the decision I'd been avoiding started to feel inevitable. After that confrontation, I think I broke in ways I didn't know were possible. I went home and just sat in the dark for hours, staring at the floor, feeling completely hollow. Every memory of her, every laugh, every kiss, every promise, felt like it had been a lie layered on top of another lie. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My mind kept running in circles. Why didn't I see it sooner? Was I that blind? Was I really so boring that she needed him? The anger came in waves, sharp and burning, and then collapsed into a deep, soul-crushing sadness. I found myself sobbing uncontrollably in the shower one morning, the kind of crying where you can't even form words, just gasps and tears. I thought about confronting her again, but the energy it took to even speak her name made me feel physically sick. Everywhere I looked, reminders of her were like daggers. Her favorite mug, her throw pillow, our photos on the wall. Everything that used to feel like home now felt like a trap. I wanted to rip the whole house apart, burn everything, erase every memory. And yet, amid all this chaos, there was a tiny, faint glimmer of clarity. I realized something terrifying and liberating at the same time. I didn't need her permission to start healing. I didn't need her validation, her lies, or her fake apologies. I could decide my next step on my own terms. It was still raw, still painful, but for the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of control. A faint sense that I could survive this and maybe eventually rebuild myself. After that emotional collapse, I realized I couldn't stay passive anymore. I needed a plan, even if it was just a small one. I started by setting some boundaries immediately, and no more pretending everything was fine. I stopped answering her passive-aggressive texts and ignored the little funny messages she'd send, the ones meant to bait me. I made it clear I wasn't okay with her seeing him while we were married. Not as a friend, not as fun. Nothing. I documented everything, texts, emails, photos, partly for clarity, partly in case legal stuff came up. I also reached out to a close friend, someone I could trust without judgment, and finally admitted everything aloud. Saying the words out loud, not just in my head, helped me see the situation more clearly. The next big move was a conversation with her. I told her plainly, Kara, this marriage is at a crossroads. I can't stay in a relationship with someone who lies, cheats, and gaslights me. You need to decide. Do you want to try to rebuild this with honesty, or do you walk away? Either way, I need to protect myself now. She rolled her eyes and did that infuriating smirk she always does. I don't know why you're making such a big deal. Can't you just relax? I said it didn't mean anything. Stop acting so dramatic. That was it. That attitude, that lack of accountability made the choice obvious. I realized I couldn't fix her. I couldn't reason with her. I could only decide what I was willing to endure. By the end of that night, I had a clear direction. I was going to separate. Not in a hasty, emotional way, but deliberately with my dignity intact. The next few weeks were a blur of logistics, emotions, and tiny victories. I started by moving some of my things into a friend's spare room, just to have space to think without her hovering or twisting everything I said. Every little step, packing a box, setting up a separate email, changing passwords, felt like reclaiming pieces of myself. Kara, of course, didn't take it well. She flipped between fake apologies, blame, and outright bitchiness. You're making this worse than it is. If you weren't so controlling, maybe we'd still be happy. I can't believe you're leaving over him. You're ridiculous. I ignored most of it. I realized engaging her only gave her power. The more she tried to guilt or manipulate me, the more I reminded myself that none of this was about me being overreactive. It was about her choices. Even though I knew separation was the right move, it wasn't painless. There were nights when the house felt unbearably empty, and mornings when the silence was louder than any argument. I missed the life we had built together, even though I knew it was poisoned. But I also started noticing small, freeing things. I could eat breakfast without tension. I could watch a movie without someone scrolling their phone next to me. I could breathe, fully, without fear or suspicion gnawing at my chest. Every small act of independence felt like a balm. It didn't erase the pain, but it reminded me that I could survive this, and eventually thrive. As the dust started to settle, I spent a lot of time alone, really thinking about everything that had happened. At first, I kept asking myself the usual questions. What did I do wrong? Could I have prevented this? But slowly, I realized none of it was my fault. Her choices, her lies, her affair. They were entirely on her. I started journaling, writing everything down. The betrayal, the anger, the sadness, helped me untangle the emotional knots in my chest. I allowed myself to feel every bit of it without judgment. Crying became therapeutic, and so did long walks where I replayed conversations, not to dwell, but to understand what had truly happened. I also started rebuilding parts of myself that had gotten lost in the marriage. Hobbies I'd abandoned, friends I hadn't seen in years, even small self-care routines like cooking or meditating. These little things reminded me who I was outside of her world. What hit me the most was clarity. Trust is everything in a relationship. Without it, nothing else matters. And once it's broken like this, no amount of excuses, apologies, or promises can restore what's lost if the other person isn't willing to take full responsibility. I realized I didn't just survive her betrayal. I was learning to thrive again. Painful? Absolutely. Life-changing? Definitely. But also empowering in a weird, twisted way. Looking back, I can finally say I've emerged from this nightmare a little stronger, a little wiser, and definitely more cautious about who I trust. Here's what I've learned in no particular order. 1. Trust your gut. That nagging feeling that something is off is usually right. Don't ignore it. 2. Evidence matters. It might feel like snooping, but having clarity is essential before making big decisions. 3. Confront, don't stew. Sitting in anger alone will eat you alive. Confronting her, even if it's messy, gave me a sense of control. 4. Protect yourself emotionally and physically. Boundaries aren't optional when someone betrays you repeatedly. 5. Healing takes time. Don't rush yourself. Cry, scream, write, walk. Do whatever it takes to reclaim yourself. 6. Some people won't change. Accepting that she would never take accountability was freeing. I stopped waiting for her to act differently and started acting for me. To anyone going through something similar, it hurts more than you can imagine, and it can feel like the end of the world. But it's not. You can survive it. You can rebuild. And in the end, the lessons you take from the pain will make you stronger than you ever thought possible. As for me, I'm focused on myself now, rebuilding, finding peace, and slowly learning to trust life again. And while I'll always carry the scars, they remind me of one thing. I'm still standing.